This is the Weigh-In Podcast by Benoit Chestnut and normally Sebastian Romero, but he will return at some point. On this week's Weigh-In, what do we have for you? So, our topic of discussion on this Takedown Thursdays is two high schoolers make the senior level world team. Interesting. So, that's a break for one of the topics, and then whatever else comes up in the time of recording, as we've basically pretty much happens almost every episode. Something comes up when you go left and right about a topic. I tend to stray away from what its topic is supposed to be and then end up on something else. But nonetheless, that is this week's weigh-in. So let's get right into it. So, two high schools make the world team. What does that tell us about the future of like college wrestling? And a lot of you say, what does that have to do with college wrestling? Well, let me tell you. If the guys that were beat, okay, Jack's Force, he did pretty good. Take him 2 matches straight. Right? Take him 2 matches straight. So, first of all, that's crazy that you go ahead and you take out Vito Rujao. That's interesting in itself. That was the first of the starts. And then PJ Duke, we talked about this before, stunned Yanni. And he just stunned him, he pinned him. So there was that. So you're talking about, Yanni was by far one of the greats of college wrestling. When you look at Yanni, being able to capture 4 natty titles, and being able to do something like that is just phenomenal. And now you're getting beat. Interesting. So it makes me wonder, can PJ Duke do what Yanni did? Yes, I believe so. I really do, because, these guys are making noise on the senior level. Like, that's the highest level you can get at, and you're making noise over there. So I definitely think that in terms of that, it's going to be real interesting, because this class coming up, and, this class coming up is just, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. All the time I get questions. We talked about this last episode, the questions. So if I get into it right now, today's question was, I just added up. Let me pull it up. Today's question was, do I foresee in the future Bo Bassett, being as good as PJ Dukes and Jax Forrest? And this question was asked of me a while ago. And off the Bassett episode, I just never really answered it. So I'm going to give you my partake here. No, because these guys won senior level. They're senior level athletes right now. And you're asking me, is Bassett on that way? No, I don't really think so. And I'm not saying that because of the personality that surrounded the leaving of Iowa. I'm saying that in regards to let's do this. So if we figure out some stuff, here, let's see. And as we look for my answer here, So as I'm looking, so we're talking about when the question was asked, yeah. So I I now know why I didn't answer it. I gave some time for a recommit from Bassett. There hasn't been. You were all about Iowa. Now you haven't committed absolutely anywhere, and we're in July right now. So the question is, where are you going to land? So that was one of the things I just don't think. I don't think. And the personality and the demeanor that, you know, when I broke down that episode, that's an episode in itself where I'm saying, okay, I get he's the number one ranked recruit. Everybody can saw after that, this, that, this, that. I get it. I get it. But in other terms, I kind of look at it as I get some of these other guys different weights, whatever. But I get that at the magnitude some of these other guys like Jax Forrest and PJ Dukes are doing things, he's just not there. He's just not there. You're not a senior level world team member right now. And so to boil down the answer to the question, you don't even know what college you're going to right now. Like you don't even know. And now you're up in, and I get you want to say, hey, he's as good as these guys. No. You didn't make senior level world team, you know? So I kind of feel like no to answer your question, but to answer the question, it's no, not really. No, no, not really. To answer the question, the answer is no, not really. Not really. Like when I was answering the question, it's not really. Not really. I kind of look at it as a not really situation, but I just feel like, to go and sit there and be like, oh, well, Bassett's this, Bassett's that. I get it. He's number one recruit, but I don't think, I even said it on that episode. I believe he'll be a couple time All American. I just don't think he's going to do the things that PJ Dukes and Jax Forrest are going to do because they're looking good right now. And they're not complaining. They're on the senior level world team, and they keep on moving forward with the stuff they do. And that was one of the things that we looked at, and that was one of the things we talked about, and that was one of the most things we talked about, and that was one of the things that we did mention in that epi was that, and I think that's an interesting. So that was an interesting thing. That was an interesting thing, I think, in terms of everything. I think you talk about um, that it was very interesting. So if we bring up senior level world team trials, Bassett did good. You beat Bartlett, nice, but you couldn't. You lost to Brock Hardy 12-7. And we talk about, okay, now you're at high level competition, and that's that's how you responded. So I'm not saying any one way or another, and I understand this is old news, but I bring this up because the questions I'm always getting is, okay, is he top? Do you think he's top of the totem? Top. Do I think he's number? Do I think it's rightful to say he's a number one? Listen, yeah, because At some points I would say yeah, because look at how he was in terms of like all last year. Like in his previous years, he was going to college opens and really bringing it to guys. He was bringing it to them. You know, do I think that in terms of now and in terms of some of that stuff, do I think now that is that still the same story? You're going to the big league, so we know at senior world team trials you couldn't really perform well. You know, and it's not to say you won't in college, but it's to say okay, you got to. We talked about this. One being their best self. You got to fix your mistakes, and when you put yourself in that box of hey, I'm in danger of losing here, it happens. So I really think one of the distinctions here is tough distinctions here is going to be where is that where is this going to go at this point. We get that you wanted to make the senior level world team, but you didn't. And that's why when I got asked the question, I told everybody, hey, listen, I get it. That's your question. But so I'm officially answering that question. I'm officially answering the question of I don't think, as of right now, I don't foresee Bassett making the same stats that I think PJ Dukes and Jack Sparks will do. I don't foresee them doing that. Do I think he still is a rivaling number one? Yeah, I think he's definitely in that top five. Do I still think he's number one? Not so much. I get you went through Fargo and you ran through the guys, but we're talking about high schoolers making the senior level world team, and you're going through Fargo, not even committed anywhere yet. Because you left Iowa over the facts of not being provided the same opportunity other schools were providing. Um, that's something there that you kind of say, "Ooh, that's an interesting one there." But nonetheless, whatever happens with Iowa, I said that I don't know if I did say this in the episode, but I hope he lands well. I hope he lands well, because I believe kid's gonna be a couple time All American. Bo Bats is going to be a couple time All American, regardless. I think wherever he's at, I do see him being a couple time All American, even if he redshirts. So I do think that he will be a couple time All American. Um, do I foresee him being a Yanny and winning 4 straight national titles? I don't think so. I think it's shown here that when he gets hard competition at this senior level, good competition. When he's figured out, he's figured out. And that's not to say he can't still win 4 national titles, but I think in terms of something, we got to stay realistic. You decommitted from Iowa. Now the difference is if he commits to Penn State, if he ends up with Cale Sanderson, I'm going to change my answer because Cale can turn up just about anybody into a national champ. And many of you may not agree with me with that, but yes, he can. He gets some recruits, some guys that are they're up there, and he turns them into 3-time national champs. He turns them into Vincenzo Joseph is one of them. You had Isaiah Martinez, Imar, that was literally running that weight. He was running it. And here comes Vincenzo Joseph to come and show him this is how it's done. So no, I believe Kale can turn some national champs. I think Kale can turn a lot of national champs. But the real sneaky question here is that Iowa team. And I say that because even though they lost Bassett, they are stacked up. That's the truth. That's the truth. And to just say, hey, I get it. Iowa wasn't providing the same opportunity for Bassett, and that's. But the story here isn't that. We have 2 high schools that made the senior level world team, and that's the bigger story. That's the news, right? 2 high schoolers make the senior level world team. Wow. I'm telling you right now, those both of them, minimum. If they don't redshirt, 2 natty titles, 2 minimum. There's no way they don't. These guys are top, especially take on a guy like Yanny, who's very tricky. He likes to scramble. He's a good scramble guy. I got the pleasure of seeing him in person face Zane. First, let him face Zane Rutherford. And let me tell you, he's tricky. Now I get that, that wrestle off was a long time ago. Not that long, but long. I kind of felt they did one match. I kind of felt if you're gonna do a wrestle off, I would say scrap the whole like what has happened before and do a whole new three sets of wrestle. But if you're gonna wrestle off, I feel like almost that I felt this at the time too. Line it up like a UFC card. Like, okay, just because two's are wrestling off, find us some others and put them on there too, so that at least you're getting more to the ticket. It was like we got in there, fans packed in, one match, Zayn won, it's over. Like, come on, man, come on, man, come on, man. But it's just, I think still great thing when you have stuff like that. Like I like what they did with the Jax Farce and Vito Rouge out, although Vito wanted to move it. Pretty nice having a couple that one match. I felt like it would be nice environment, because Fargo's huge, and you have all those young athletes there that can really be able to learn, and with the coaches too. If I was a coach at Fargo, I'm just saying if it was me, and you got that match going on, and you're able to stick around for that, I would sit there and be. People wouldn't like me. I'd be talking the whole time, say, "Girls, watch, watch, watch. Boys, watch, watch, watch. Guys, watch, watch, watch. Look, look, look. Look at that high crotch. Just saying, watch. You see Jax? You see how he's cutting to the corner? Man, I'd be making a lesson out of the whole thing. Why not? It's one of the biggest ways to learn. Like some people think that just because um you can learn from all forms of wrestling, literally all forms. And some people, I mean, well, except elementary. That is the only like when they're that little, you can't learn from that. It's very hard. A lot of them have just learned wrestling, and it's just not no. Middle, some of it, high school for sure. Like some of the stuff you see the guys do, you can learn from it. And then obviously everybody knows college. You can learn about just about everything from those guys. You know, there's a lot to learn in all forms of wrestling, and I think, in terms of everything, it's all about just watching. You know, if you watch a match once and you don't get something, you got to watch it twice. Got to watch it 2, 3 times. And, that was the difference maker for me when I was in high school, college. I wouldn't just watch a match once. I watched it 2, 3 times, frame by frame. That's just kind of the way to go, just to understand my mistakes and not do those again. And that was one of the things that I knew that that I really liked was, going frame by frame. And, there are a lot of things that make things very well, but when you have 2 high schools that make the world team, now we're going to start talking about. We're going to see this more common, and I'm going to tell you why. Because now that 2 of them made it, other wrestlers that think they're good enough are going to start wanting to compete in the world team, and then we're going to start seeing a lot of that stuff, and that's where it's going to get real interesting because you got 2 guys who make team level world team. I think it was already common. Sort of common. Sort of common on the woman's side. I think it was already sort of common, whether they were high schoolers or homeschooled. I think it was sort of common that they were competing and trying to make the world team. But, on the men's side, I don't know of too many times you've seen it. Then again, if I'm wrong, like I always say, Google it. So nonetheless, that's a good way to go about it, is that when you have that. And the interesting point is going to be, July 21st, as many of you don't know, we got USA wrestling versus Russia wrestling, and that's going to be good. So we're going to see how these high schoolers do against, other countries, real competition out there. And I'm not saying in the United States it ain't real competition, because it was real competition. I'm saying, against, not domestic opponents, not in-state opponents, out of country opponents. And I think that's going to be interesting. I think if you're not trying to watch that, you should, because it's going to be good. I think the punchline for it is what is the punchline for that? Let's see. They had a punchline going for it and everything. The Bash Mania punchline is wrestle for peace. So I believe it. I believe it. I agree with it. I think that at this point we have to ask ourselves, how will they do there? If they do very well, I think that they have a promising future. I think they do. Do I think Yanni and Vito will make the world team again? Oh, they will. Oh, they will. They got a whole year to think about not being on the team. I think they're gonna get right. They're gonna get right. And this is the year we had no Kyle Dake, no David Taylor, no Jordan Burroughs for the first time. Hey, I think you asked me. I think Dake's gonna make the team next year. I think Jordan Burroughs is gonna come on back and make it. I think. Listen, just because, and this was something that was said. Do I believe that Kyle Dake and Jordan Burroughs, them? Do I believe in them as the old heads? I really don't. I believe in them as the pioneers of wrestling. I think that Jordan Burroughs has well on been the pioneer for wrestling. When he came and did the shoes with Asics, there was the Asics going around. I understand they already had something. You had the gold Asics. All I see is gold is what they talked about. That gold Asics. He had them Asics going around. You know, he was pioneer. He was. There were some pioneers in this wrestling. And don't even get me started. David Taylor was a pioneer too. If any of you remember when he was with Adidas, he was with Adidas, and he had the M2 singlet, socks, shorts, the whole nine. Listen, those guys and Dake had the early. He was with who was that? Let me look it up. Dake was with somebody. Yeah, let me tell you, they were a low old time. Let me figure it out for you. It was. Listen, I get it for you. Let's see. I'm looking for it for you. Oh, this is old. This is an old match. Old match, but I'm looking for it for you. Yep. It was the Tyke Mercury CF singlet where it had the Milwaukee on it. And you know what? It started a movement that never really kicked off. I'm gonna tell you why, because putting the sponsor on the singlet, and he had it. He had the Milwaukee, and he had the whole Milwaukee truck and everything, wrapped and everything. you know, he started something that never really kicked off, but I think it will. I really do think it will. I think it'll make a comeback in a couple of years, putting sponsors on the singlets. I really do think it'll make a comeback. But that was the CF singlet. You know, listen, we talked about some early pioneers of wrestling when that stuff was going around. And I understand there are bigger early pioneers, but I'm talking about, when at least when I was growing up, the early pioneers of wrestling. That's something that's like, oh boy, them pioneers are those are the wrestling, those are the kickoff wrestling days. I'm telling you, and those are the days, Flow was just getting itself established. Oh yeah. Flow wrestling was still getting itself established. It was really good wrestling wise. In terms of wrestling wise, it was like really good. I'm telling you, them three guys pioneered wrestling, you know. They pioneer. Many would love to say, "Nah, it's not true." I get it. There are bigger stars that pioneered. I mean, we could talk about the Henry Cejudo years and the. But listen, Jordan Burroughs pioneered a lot of wrestling, and so did Kyle Dake and Dave. When they started up, those matchups where you see Jordan come back, bro, those brought the fans, and that's what I'm saying. Those guys pioneered. To see two high schools on there on the senior world team. That was something that we talked about. That's that we talked about. Like, woo, that's a huge one. To talk about something like that and to have, the new generation come on and really, really work their way onto a senior level world team and be dominant at doing it. It's gonna get interesting. It's gonna get interesting. I'm telling you, what we've seen so far is David Taylor off to coaching, Kyle Dake, Jordan Burroughs, both. Jordan Burroughs kind of. It seems like he took the year, although he didn't. It seems like he did. Um, Kyle Dake got beat, so you got two of them left around, and then you got Jordan Burroughs doing a lot of coaching. So it makes us wonder. He was doing that last year, but spent a lot of time at that Okie. You know, I think everybody, and I in terms of when I broke that episode down, what's going on Burroughs, I really thought that okay, we might be seeing a trend here. Jordan might be, but you look at all these coaching changes in college wrestling, they're stacking up left and right, and I think it's about to be the I call I called the transfer portal a draft. I'm gonna call that college wrestling market. It's a market. It's about to go crazy because you got this new coming class. Man, that top five recruits, that includes that number one Bassett, they're gonna make some noise. Regardless of what I think of Bassett. How I think he can only be a couple time All American and maybe a one time national champ or two, kind of where I feel like it's iffy to whether he may or may not get national title due to where he may land. He's still gonna make a lot of noise and he's still gonna be a problem. And that's what I say. Either way, he's still gonna come in and be a problem of college wrestling. He's still gonna go and give guys a problem on the mat, no matter where he lands. If he ends up at Kill Sanderson, let me tell you, that's two-time national champ. I'll say that comfortably. Kale can turn national title and with something that talented, two-time. So it really is going to depend on where he goes. Even at Iowa, I thought he was likely to be, depending on how it may play out. Because they had a lot of pieces there, and there were a lot of guys that they came in and got, and all this stuff. So it's going to be interesting. But nonetheless, we draw an end to the episode, which really took a turn. As always, it didn't really stay all about those high schoolers making the world team, which is great for them. It kind of didn't, but some throwbacks, some good stuff. Nonetheless, I think it was a beneficial epi. But with that being said, this is the way in by Ben Chestnut and normally Sebastian Merrill, but he will return at some point. Um, like, comment, subscribe, share. I love putting these out for you, and please continue the questions. I'm still going through and finding some that I never answered. So, I try to always answer your questions that you guys are giving me. A lot of them are emailed because some of you don't want to comment it. That's fine. You can hit us up on Instagram, my personal Instagram, wherever for your questions. I will always answer them. I'll try. If I catch it, I will try to answer it. That's my problem. Some of those I don't catch, but I am answering a lot of these questions right now. I am answering a lot of questions, so that's pretty good. So, with that being said, this is the weigh-in. So, yet another epi. Weigh-in out.